So, Jeff, thank you very much for sitting down with me. You mentioned in a comment that ozone has helped you greatly with your Lyme disease, so I wanted to talk about that. So why don't you start? Why don't you tell us how you got sick with Lyme, how you were diagnosed, and what ozone you did, and so on.
Okay, I got, it was 2014. I was running in the woods and I noticed like a day later I had the big, bullseye that everybody hears about in the back of the legs. And it got me really worried because I thought first thing is, oh no, I hope it's not Lyme because I'd heard of how sick people get. But then the second thing was I didn't have health insurance. And, in the US here, if you don't have health insurance, you're in big trouble because, the cost of care is so expensive. So I thought I have to do something. So I went to a kind of one of these little, uh, like you just kind of pop in for, it's like a little health clinic. And, I said, I think I have Lyme. What do you think? And so basically they said, it looks like Lyme, but we can't be certain unless we run tests. And of course, I couldn't afford to have the test done. But I said, well, what can you do? And they said, well, we can give you a round of antibiotics. So I did get the antibiotics. Now, I should say that, or I need to back up. Before I went to the doctor, I saw the bullseye and I thought, oh, well, maybe it's not going to lead to anything. But, over the next week or so, I started like feeling the symptoms coming on. I started getting really like tired and sluggish. And I thought, well, maybe I could just beat it, just keep eating good, try to drink a lot of fluids, take vitamins, but it kept getting worse. I think by week two, I started like slurring my words. I started like I just could not move. My muscles felt really heavy. Okay. I even had trouble thinking and remembering. So I was like a different person within a few weeks. So I went to get finally I went to the doctor, got the antibiotics, and that helped me for probably about 3 weeks. I was a lot better. I wasn't perfect, but the antibiotics did help. But at the end of the 3 weeks, I did find the symptoms coming back on. So I thought, okay, maybe if it worked the first time, let me go on the second round of antibiotics. And once again, that helped for a few weeks, but then it started going, sliding back the other way. So that's when I decided that I need to, you know, figure something else out.
Okay, and so then you encountered ozone therapy, yes?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I started doing what everybody does. I started Googling. I started going on to YouTube looking for like, cures or remedies, stuff like that. And your video was one that I actually found. And I think I had contacted you back then. I might have asked you a question and you might have replied or something like that. Um, but you kind of got me starting to think about other ways to, handle the whole thing. And then because you were talking in ozone about ozone, then I started, watching a lot of other popular videos on ozone. And that I decided that I'm going to buy like one of the units online. It was like the separate air compressor and the whole ozone setup. I think it might have cost me like $1,200 or something like that.
Okay, and so then you started ozonating yourself at home, yes?
I did, yeah. I kind of was just like winging it. I didn't really know exactly how to do it, so I just kind of used like an intuitive feel for it. Some days I would do just like drinking the ozonated water, uh, like probably a couple big glasses a day. So I would do that twice a day. Other times I would do the rectal insufflation, I think you call it. So I do that. Other times I would do the one where you put the stethoscope in your ear, okay, and do that one. And I just basically vary it. I would never do all of them on the same day. I might do one of them for 3 days in a row, then switch to another one for a couple days, and then go to another one for a day. I tried to like shock the body. I decided that, okay, this Lyme disease is very smart. It's very powerful. So I thought I have to not just keep tricking the body and not letting the Lyme know what I'm going to do next. That's why I kept, kind of playing around, doing different things. And then also I did the same thing with a lot of other supplementation as well.
Hmm. So were you also doing ozone saunas?
No, that's something I wanted to do, but I didn't at the time. I didn't have a lot of extra money, to buy the ozone sauna, but I would have added that in as well if I, had the money at that time.
Hmm. So, okay, so you were doing rectal insufflations, ear insufflations, and drinking ozonated water, yes?
Right.
And it was like sometimes you would do like more of that stuff like on 3 consecutive days, and then you would take a break of a couple of days, and then you would do some ozone again. Yes?
Uh, that's right. I kept mixing it up. And also, there was times I knew I was having that was what you call the Herxheimer reaction. Okay, so like where my symptoms would be getting worse, I would do the treatments, and I was feeling worse. So I thought I can't be doing going 100% all out all the time. And then also because I was doing other things, like I went online and I started reading about all the things that like the supplements, and I wish I could remember them now, but like the like I think the black walnut, that one, you would probably know all the ones out there, but I just started reading about 3 or 4 different like kind of tinctures or homeopathic remedies. So I started taking those along with the ozone therapy. And I did the same thing. I might take the black walnut for 2, 3 days in a row. Then the next day I would take another one, which actually, now I think about it, was called wormwood. Okay, so there was that one. I ordered something else online, which I can't think of. It might have contained like 2 or 3 different bottles, and it was supposed to be like a whole Lyme protocol.
Okay,
Um,
did you
so I
do,
added that one in. I was basically kind of just winging it, shotgunning it, just throwing a lot of stuff out there and hoping it would work. And thankfully, after doing the ozone for, I can't, it's so long now, but I would say probably within less than 2 weeks, I said, wait a minute, something's changing. I wasn't having as much of the pain in my body. I was starting to think clearly again. My speech came back, so I knew, okay, there really has to be something to the ozone. So I just kept going with it.
okay, so you think it was mostly the ozone and not so much the tinctures that made the difference? Did you hear me?
I would say the ozone was, just from the research that I've done about the power of ozone, I would have to say that was probably the biggest thing, because I didn't start actually throwing in, for a little while, the other things, the wormwood and so forth. So the fact that soon on, I was starting to feel better with the ozone, it had to be, I would say, 80% of it. I mean, that's not a scientific, number or anything like that, just an observation, but I would say that was probably the thing that made the biggest difference.
Okay, this is really amazing, and especially, I myself, I am astounded, because uh, uh, because I keep telling people, if you have something as serious as a Lyme infection, which is usually a systemic infection, then you also need to do a systemic treatment like either ozone IVs or ozone saunas. But you're telling me you only did rectal ear insufflations and ozonated water, essentially, and the tinctures, and
Yep.
that did the trick, basically.
Yeah, I would say just, like they say, like when you're working out, right? Like if you keep doing the same workout multiple, the same thing over and over again, the body becomes comfortable, and then it stops progressing. So you want to kind of always shock it, keep doing different workouts. So I thought, oh, I wonder if that would work with treating the ozone or the Lyme, and that's how I came up with that. Another thing that I did that I know helped it was, even though I was feeling kind of not a lot of energy, if I would go out, like we have kind of like a little forest behind the house where I live, I would just start going out in nature and trying to run. For
Okay.
some reason, just getting my body sweating and jogging, even if it was slow, I just felt that that was doing something to me. I was reading that Lyme hates, I guess, the presence of a lot of oxygen. Okay, so I thought, okay, well, if I start trying to run, I'm going to be doing another thing that the Lyme does not, it's not going to be happy with. Okay, so that's another little piece too that I think really helped, and it just kind of lifted my spirits, getting out there and kind of feeling my body move again.
Hmm. Okay, so after 2 weeks, you started feeling a break. Yes?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say, I mean, I started feeling noticeably better.
Okay.
Okay, all the really debilitating things like the slurred speech, the inability to like focus and think clearly, that was coming back very quickly. Um, and then after that, it was just kind of keep doing it. And I probably was very hardcore with everything for about a year. But after a year, it was like, no, I had never had it. Okay, so it was like then I didn't do everything now as much as I would. But even like here we are, like 5 years later, I still use the principle, you know, to do a few things once in a while that I know, like Lyme or any, bad thing in the body. I might take a little bit of, I still maybe ozone once a week, something like that, a glass of ozone water. I try to do like the coffee enema maybe once every few weeks. Uh, Also like to do intermittent eating, where I only eat like within, say, a 6 hour window in a day. I think that definitely helps because I can let the body heal, just kind of rest a lot. Um, just trying to eat a clean diet, most of the time, I think helps. But as far as diet goes, I didn't go crazy. I know some people, they'll cut out like all sugar, everything like that. I tried to cut out, be as clean as I could, but I didn't go crazy with the diet.
But so what did you eat? What was your diet like?
Um, I would say probably 80% raw, just lots of like like big salads, stuff like that. Uh, Really no meat per se, but I would have like eggs, might have a couple hard-boiled eggs in a salad, lots of, sesame seeds and different types of nuts, but so that's pretty much what I ate most of the time. Pretty clean diet. Of course, so if I went out, I enjoy like a good coffee or pastry or something like that, but it wouldn't be something I'd be eating every day. It might be like maybe once or twice a week I might allow myself to, have a pastry and, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so with the ear insufflation, so what many people experience are really uncomfortable detox reactions, like they get itchiness, scabbing, sometimes pain,
Yeah.
all that. Did you get that too?
Yeah, I remember that I would get if I didn't really moisten the inside of the ear canal with water, I would get like kind of like, it would kind of almost like be burned. You know what I mean? So once I really started to put a lot of water in there, stuff like that, I think I might even try like coconut oil or something with the water. That helped me. So that helped getting rid of any of that kind of like chafing or whatever you want to call it, like on the inside of the ear. Uh, it did give me more of a reaction, like the Herxheimer reaction. Okay, the Lyme symptoms I would notice would kind of come on strong, but I intuitively knew that my body needed that. It just, for some reason, I thought, okay, the Lyme is all up here, big part of it. So if I kind of put something as close to the source as possible, it's going to help me. So I just kind of thought, all right, whatever problems I have, it's going to be short lived. And then also, I usually found I wouldn't do it more than about 5 minutes was all I needed. I don't know if you can see that there. It's the,
Yeah. Okay, so you have the single cell. Okay, this is great. Okay, so you probably had it like okay on the dial you had it like pretty high, probably on the
yeah,
six
actually,
or seven.
if you see here, it's kind of like the on off here. If this goes 0 to 8, now that I think about it, I just put that all the way up and I've never moved it.
Awesome.
So, so not very, I don't know why. I just it was working, so I didn't think of like testing it out and trying other settings.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, if you had it all the way to 8 and you used a low flow on the oxygen, then you probably
Okay,
then you probably got an ozone concentration of something like between 50 and 70, something around that, depending
okay,
depending on what the actual oxygen flow was. But maybe yeah,
yeah,
something like 50, 60, 50, 70 area could have been.
okay, yeah. I never really looked into it too much. The only thing I change is like if I'm going to do the ozonated water, then I crank up the amount of oxygen coming through the compressor like very high. I just want to see that thing really bubbling. So that's the only time I change that part of the machine. But as far as the box I just showed you, that always just stayed all the way up.
Okay. And what about the rectal insufflations? How much and how would you do them?
Uh,
Did you use a bag where you first put the ozone in and then you did the insufflation, or how did you do it?
I just used it like the actual tube, like I think they provide like I think you call it like a catheter tube or something like that. It's like a tube, and I would do it usually about 20 minutes to a half an hour.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's kind of but I had to be very careful because it's you're obviously kind of pushing like
Gas.
gas up there, so like it had to be like a low setting. So I had to kind of experiment, because you sometimes you'd feel like your stomach was just so like going to explode. So I would have to kind of find like the happy medium where it wasn't it wasn't too much. And then I would just try to relax and just say, all right, 20 minutes or so. I think sometimes I would go like 30 minutes. And that's sort of, as high as I went on that.
So, what did you do about the Herxheimer reaction? Did you take anything special that helped you with it, or you just wrote it out?
I just wrote it out. I just accepted that it was sort of like, you got to take the bad with the good. And it was just the price I would have to pay. I mean, I kind of in my mind thought I'm at war with this thing. It was kind of like, I thought I really have to go all out, and just if it's gonna temporarily make me feel worse, I'm just gonna just put up with that and realize that even though I may feel worse for a couple of days, that it's gonna take me incrementally closer to getting better. So that was important. And then also the thing too is I don't believe anything I read. I mean, I know you know some people like they're devastated for they can have the symptoms for 10, 20 years, or it can ruin their life. And so I had to be careful not, even though that's happened to people, I said, you know what, that happened to them, I hope they get well, but I'm going to kind of I've just got to proceed and not worry about what happened to other people, and believe that I can just get over it completely. It was
Right.
a lot of it too is just mindset, believing that, okay, just because other people have been really bad off, somehow I can kind of get better.
Right. So this is really great because so basically you did two courses of antibiotics and they only
Right.
helped you for a short amount of time,
That's
uh,
right.
and then you were feeling bad again. And after doing just 2 weeks of ozone, you felt considerably better,
That's right.
but you kept it up for like a whole year, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And after that year, you felt like, okay, I can't really get any better, and you stopped, or what
I
made you
didn't
stop?
stop, but I just kind of I kept like decreasing the amount of time I did it. It might be instead of doing went from ozone every some form of ozone every day to maybe at the end of a year it might have been once a week, something like that. In the same way with all the things I was taking, like the wormwood and the black walnut and a couple other things, I wasn't taking them every day. I just said, okay, I'm just gonna maybe every couple of days I'll take one of those, and that was it. And now I don't, I'll just take like the ozone water or something like that, maybe once every couple of weeks, but that's more just to kind of, just the preventative nature of the water. But with that said, I do want to get back into doing ozone just for purely, to keep the body clean, just because I think it does way more things than just treating things like Lyme. So kind of one of my goals is to get back and at least do ozone once a week, like maybe water once a week in some type, whether it's through the ear or rectally, just to kind of, keep everything in good shape.
Okay, great. So I don't have any more questions. I think this is really fascinating. It's really interesting. I also
Yeah.
find
I mean, it's like I said, I got to thank you because it's like you were just somebody I stumbled onto on YouTube, and you kind of put me on the right path. And thankfully, it kind of got me on the right side of things. And here we are, like 5 years later. I feel like healthier than ever, and so
that's great. But
yeah, people just have to stick with it and realize that you can do it. It's possible. I mean, if people can overcome, like, through alternative methods like stage 4 cancer, when they've been told they have like 3 weeks to live or 4 weeks, certainly you can overcome anything.
yes, absolutely. Um, but I think what may have also played a role is that you caught it pretty quickly because you went to that clinic and first had the antibiotics done. They may not have totally killed off the bacteria, but partially, probably. So you were pretty quick. It may be a different response in someone who's had Lyme for many years or even decades, and then they start treating themselves. So this may be a different situation. Um, but yeah, what's interesting in your case is that you actually had the bullseye rash, because some people never get that rash. So in some people it may be actually questionable. Do they really have Lyme, or is it maybe something else? But if you got that rash, that's a pretty good indication that it really was Lyme.
Yeah, it was unmistakable. It was huge. It was like, and then when I went online, it looked like all the different like pictures you see. It was like the classic thing, just it was plain as day. And so, you brought up a good point. I mean, it was actually a blessing that I got it, because if I was like some people that didn't get it and then they had the Lyme for like 5 years or whatever, then maybe my story would be very different. It's possible that I might have struggled a lot more, to get in shape. Um, but I just knew that if I didn't go beyond the antibiotics, that I just felt like I was just going to always be, you know, treading water. And I figured that they would probably just, the only thing they could do is keep, putting me on more and more powerful drugs, which I didn't want to do. So, once
Right.
again, I catch it early. So I think that, that did help a lot.
The funny thing is that you say that that my video on YouTube was one of the things that informed you about ozone therapy. But the funny thing is that I actually found out years later that I never had Lyme. You know,
Oh, I see. Okay. No. Okay. Interesting.
I never had Lyme. It was actually something that a doctor diagnosed me like very, very hastily, and he didn't really have a lot of information. He just concluded it from basically one symptom and another piece of information that I gave him. And but later it turned out that I actually never had Lyme. Well,
Okay.
yeah,
I
that
had no idea, but that's amazing, because here we are though, and you helped me just
yeah,
by a diagnosis from another doctor.
right, yeah. Well, thank you very much for doing this, and I hope this will be informative and helpful to some people who are dealing with real Lyme disease like you were. So yeah, so thank you again.
Okay, you're welcome. And if anybody, has any questions, maybe you could put a, link. They could email me if I could kind of help anybody, answer their questions. I'm happy to do that as well.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Do you want me to put your email under the description, under the video in the description, or?
Yeah, you can do that. Like I said, if you help me, so if I can help anybody else, I'm obviously I realize everybody's case is different, but I'll be happy to help people. Just kind of share my experiences if they think it might help a bit.
Okay. Well, yeah, if you have like any other contact that you want me to include in the description, I can do that, like
Okay, yeah,
if you have
I'll
like.
give it to you, after we're done here, and then you can just include it on the link as well.
Sure, yeah. All right, great. Thank you very
Okay, very
much.
good. Okay, I'm hopefully that I can help somebody in some way.
I hope so. I'm sure you will. Uh,
Okay, very good. Well, thank you very much.